Hello there and welcome back to my channel, or if this is the first video mine you are seeing, then welcome. I thought it would be fun just to do 3 looks with this Natasha Denona. This is the mini Biba eyeshadow palette. I know this is like one of the older minis now. I think it came out maybe like 2 or 3 years ago, but I just recently added it to my collection because I always wanted the full-size Biba, but I know the full size is $130. It's one of her very large, expensive palettes. So when I saw they were still selling the mini at the Sephora and Kohl's near me, I just happened to pick this up quite recently, so I just wanted to do a couple of looks with it. So let's go ahead and get started. On a Sigma E24, I'm going in with this shade right here. I'm going to run that right into my crease. I saw where she revealed her new holiday palette for this year, Roxa, I guess is how you'd say that. I think it's very pretty, but it probably will not be something I pick up because it's like a purple palette or pink or purple, and I just don't. I know I wouldn't wear it, so it's probably going to be something I pass on, but I do think it's very pretty. Watch me say that and then see a couple of reviews and then decide that I want it. But I don't know, I'm just more for like the neutrals or soft eyeshadows, and I'm sure you can make the look soft, but I just don't think it would be a palette that I would reach for a lot. Unlike the new Mario eyeshadow palette, I do have that on the way to me right now. I did order that one. That is a gorgeous palette. If all goes well, you will be seeing that video this coming Friday. I would have loved to have gotten it up for today, but considering that by the time I actually get the palette, I would only have like 1 or 2 days in between, and I want to make sure I'm doing multiple looks. I want to do live swatches. I want to do everything, so that video will be coming up Friday. I don't want to rush that video out. Then on a Sigma E45, I'm going in with the shade right here. I'm going to place that on this outer half of my lid. I'm working that up into the crease. Of course, I always go back in with my Flawless concealer brush from e.l.f. and we're just going around the edges of that. I'm undecided if I want to do 2 or 3 looks with this palette. I think with it being a little mini, I think it's, you know, better to show as many looks that you can create with it as possible. And go back in and just lightly blend around the edges of that. Not too much because I don't want to take away from the pigment too much. And then I'm going to take the shimmer shade. Ooh, that's pretty. You know, I love when I do have some short press-ons on because I feel like it's so nice to see shimmers like that. When you apply them with your finger, they just apply so much better. But usually I have the longer ones on, it's harder to get in that inner corner. It's so pretty. Alright, I'm going to apply a little bit of my concealer so we can go ahead and do the lower lash line. That was the Kosas concealer, by the way. Then using that same E45, I'm going in with this shade right here. Actually, you know what? I think I'm going to mix this shade and this shade. Just mix the 2 of them together. And we're going to run that all along this lower lash line. I'm going to go and pick up a little bit more. I didn't get a lot on the brush the first time. We're going to place a little more. And then on that same brush, I'm going to take the shimmer shade. Just pick up a little bit of that and pop that right here. Not too much, just a little bit. Okay, so here is look number 1. Now, I do have some mascara marks up there. I was just letting them dry. And for the blush, I'm wearing the Makeup by Mario Soft Pop Powder Blush. This one is in the shade Desert Rose, which is so beautiful. And for my lips, I'm wearing the Tower 28 Juice Bomb Lip Balm in the shade Mix. Thought that was a perfect shade. There is look number 1. I'm still not quite sure how many looks I plan on doing with this, but I know I'm at least doing 2, so on to the next one. Got you zoomed in. We're going straight into look number 2. So on a Sigma E24, I'm going in with this shade right here. And we're going to start running that into my crease. These are really easy to work with. I'm having no issues whatsoever with them. Of course, I never do have issues with Natasha Denona's eyeshadows. Also, just know that even if I don't show it, like if I cut it out in editing, know that I'm going back in with that Flawless Concealer brush from e.l.f. and I'm always going around the edges of each shade that I apply. Sometimes I do cut it out simply because I just feel like it's a little repetitive, but just know that I'm always doing this step. I think today I'm going to do an all matte look. So that would be pretty, since I did use that shimmer yesterday in a larger way because it covered like the first half of my lid. You know, I feel like doing videos like this every now and then kind of helps me continue to use eyeshadow palettes that are in my collection. You know, outside of my Keep or Declutter series that I want to continue with. I know I just had a video about that go up this past Friday. I do want to continue doing that, but for palettes that I know I want to keep, I want to also feature them more on my channel because I do have a lot of eyeshadow palettes and I want to use them more and more. I just picked up a tiny more just to go right into that crease, like directly into it. And of course, I'm going back in with that brush from e.l.f. and we're just going around the edges. Very lightly. I'm barely touching my skin with this brush. Because if you really want to diffuse, you can definitely go in more with this, but now it is going to take away a lot of the pigment. So if you like barely there pigment, it's a good brush for this. You know, this shade in the palette almost feels like one of those cream shades that she has. So I don't know if I'm going to use that one today, but I'm going to take this shade right here on a Sigma E45. And we're going to place that right out here. I might have to pick up more. I didn't pick up a lot at the beginning because I know these shades are very pigmented. Yeah, we'll have to go back in with a little bit more. I love the point on this brush because it really gets into that crease. I haven't been using it, but I saw it the other day in my little brush holder and feel like I should be getting some more use out of it because Sigma brushes are nice. Now I'm going to go back in with this brush. We're going to work around the edges of that and kind of really all over it a little bit because I did apply probably too much. Okay, we're going to do the same thing on this eye. Just pack it down first. And then go back and blend this out with that e.l.f. brush and just kind of work around it. Help diffuse that out even more. And I know I'm getting it all out here. It's okay, I am about to go in with some concealer and be cleaning that up. This large brush is going to do that if you're really diffusing it out the way I am. It's not a big deal. You can just easily clean that up. Okay, I wiped that E45 brush off and I'm going in with this shade right here. And we're going to place that on the beginning portion of my lid. Okay, and then I'm going to apply a little bit of concealer, especially on this eye. Just going to use my Kosas Revealer Concealer. I'm going to take a mixture of these two shades right here, but mostly picking up this shade. So maybe dip once and then twice into this one. And I'm going to run that along my lower lash line. Do the same thing over here. I'm not sure if I want to add a little bit of shimmer to the inner corner. I don't know yet. Okay, I think I'm going to leave it for right now, so I'm going to quickly do the rest of my face and I'll come back and show you the completed look. Okay, and here is the full completed look. A little bit darker than yesterday. Now, I will say that this side, that deepest shade, I think I applied too much because there is one spot where it's wanting to sit a little bit, but I think that might have been more of my fault. But on the rest of my face, right quick, my blush, I'm wearing one of the Patrick Ta blushes. This one is She's the Moment, this really beautiful shade. I only wore the powder today, very lightly though. I didn't put like the cream or anything on top because my foundation and base products were already pretty glowy. And for the lips, I'm wearing this Hard Candy and Girl Scouts lip marker in trefoils. So I feel like that has kind of that orangey tone a little bit to it. Kind of matches the eyes. So I will be doing one more look with this palette. I want to use that last shade, which definitely feels more like a cream. So I'm going to be using that. So I want to do one more look with this palette. So that'll be 3 looks that you can get with this little mini. So on to look number 3. I'm going to be doing a very simple look today. I'm just going to be using, or well, I'm going to start with this shade right here. I'm going to take it on my finger because it feels like one of those cream shades. And I noticed yesterday that this shade kind of felt like that too, and it did not perform well because I had already laid down powder. I noticed back in editing that look number 2 just looks so patchy on like the outer portion because of that. So that was more of my fault because I didn't swatch these beforehand like I usually do. I feel like swatches probably weren't really necessary for this since this palette is like 2 years old now. But I should have because that would have told me that this also feels like one of those cream shades. Because I felt like if I hadn't laid down any powder, that shade would have worked better. But I'm just going to move on to look number 3, which is going to be very, very simple today. I'm going to take this shade right here on my finger. I didn't pick up too much, and I'm just going to pat that all over the lid. I do have an eyeshadow primer on, but I did not set it with any powder because I felt like if this was one of those creams, it wouldn't perform that well over powder. So just finger it is. You could really honestly leave this as a one and done shade, but I do want to add in a little bit more sparkle over it. I'm just going in with that Flawless concealer brush, and of course we're going to just work around that a little bit. And we're just going to do the same thing on this side. And this is going to be the easiest look really out of all of them, I suppose, because it's going to be the most simple, but I will say that so far the first look is my favorite. Those first 3 shades I used performed really nicely. You know, this is the perks of having these short press-ons. I can actually use my finger. I'm going to go in with the shimmer shade. I'm just going to tap into it like this. I'm not going to actually rub into the product. I want to just get a light amount of that. And we're going to just scatter that right here in the center of my lid. We're just adding a little pop of something. Nothing much. And if you like the first shade by itself, you can totally stop there, but I want a little bit of sparkle today since I did more of an all matte look yesterday, not the first time, yesterday. This is such a pretty shimmer shade. I mean, even just lightly scattered out, it's so pretty. I think it's about the best shade in the palette. It just adds a little pop of something, not too much. Alright, so that's pretty much it for the lid. So I'm going to put on a little bit of concealer, my Revealer concealer from Kosas, which is an amazing concealer. I'm going to go ahead and finish up the lower lash line while I'm here. I know there are a lot of people who are very into the one and done eye look, so I wanted to include a look like that you could get from this palette, except for now I know that I did top it with the shimmer, but you don't have to do that step at all. Alright, I'm going to pick up a little bit more of that shade, and we're just going to run that all along my lower lash line. And do the same thing over here. You know, I probably could have applied it with a brush too on the lid, but I just went in with finger because I felt like that would be just simple, but you could totally use a brush because, I mean, it's applying well with this brush. And I'm going to take a little bit of that shimmer shade, and I'm going to pop that right there. Not too much because this shade isn't really a brightening shade on me, so I'm just going to pop a little bit. Then I'm going to take a little bit more of that and place a little bit on this lower lash line. Not too much. I don't even know if you'll be able to really even see it. There's not a lot. Okay, so I'm just going to finish up the rest of my face, and I'll be right back with the finished look and my final thoughts. Okay, so here is the third and final look with this palette. Just right quick, what's on my cheeks and lips. For my blush, I'm wearing the Ulta Beauty Flushed Blush Powder Blush, and this one is in the shade Flamingo. This is such a beautiful soft blush. Kind of reminds me a little bit of my favorite Milani blush. I'd like to compare this one, the one from Makeup by Mario that I have, and that one, and just see if they're very similar shades. And then on my lips, I'm wearing the Tower 28 Shine On Lip Jelly in Chilled. This is just a clear. I really didn't want to wear too much because I felt like this was a very simple, easy look, so I just put on a clear gloss and that's it. This eyeshadow palette, I will say that for me and my preferences, these three shades are the best ones in the palette. I want to say these two feel like that cream kind of formula, which is not my favorite. I would have much preferred them just to be regular matte shades, but that's just me, that's my preference. But I mean, all in all, there are much better Natasha Denona mini palettes out there, and her larger palettes, of course. So, I mean, do I regret purchasing it? No, I still think it's a pretty palette, and I do like today's look. I still think that the first look was my personal favorite, but I did not like yesterday's look at all. It looked so bad. I didn't notice it as much while I was filming, but when I was editing, I could see it on my lids while I was watching my video back, and then, of course, seeing it more so in person, it just did not look good at all. But it was my fault. If it is a cream shade, I was packing it on top of powder and it just wasn't blending right. So I think the third and the first look are the best. The second look is not my personal favorite. But all in all, there are much better mini palettes of hers for sure. But I do hope that you enjoyed today's video, and if you did, I hope you will please consider leaving a like, a comment, or subscribing if you haven't already. And make sure you hit the bell icon so you are alerted to all my future uploads, and follow me on Instagram at jessicadeerly. All of these products will be listed and linked for you below. They are affiliate links, so if you click through and purchase, I do earn a small commission. And if you choose to do so, thank you so much for supporting me and my channel, and I hope to see you in my next video. Bye!